G'day friends and fans, welcome to Dave Talks Off Ukraine War update for the 22nd of April 2026. I'm your host, the author David Applegate, and while there's a war on, I'm going to bring you my unique take on the situation. I prefer news from both sides. I prefer to be educated. I do not like to be blindsided. I want to know what the enemy's thinking, or at least what they want us to think. Because then you can work out whether they're trying to distract us from, where they're lying, and when they're not. And it helps. Because both sides are going to be engaged in propaganda, withhold the truth when it doesn't suit them, and tell each other's secrets when it benefits them the most. Now, yesterday there was a huge wave of attacks across Ukraine, which have all magically disappeared and never seem to be acknowledged in the media. So moving on from that, we do have physical engagements all across the frontier, which was the focus of today's meetings in Russia. But there are others, including the increasing buffer zone here and the ongoing offensive in Kupiansk. Although they're not calling it offensive, they're calling them probing attacks in some media. But in Telegram, they carried out a successful strike on a transport hub today. And Russian special forces liberated a hostage in Mali. So, yeah, Russia takes the time. Russia's, rescued someone in a foreign hostage situation. Stood up to some African warlords. So, there's a lot of cooperation you're missing out on again, all because France wants to, and England wants to go, we're still relevant, and Germany's going, so don't forget about us. Yeah, and Spain, well, they just want to be, we want to be loved by everyone. You're going to hear about Macron whining that France lost money. The only way you could have lost money is you're backing the wrong horse. Trump has been getting allies ships out, except for those that went to Iranian ports. Could it be that Macron has been trading with Iran? Sanction busting, hey Macron? Oh, too bad, so sad. You, as they say in China, F all around to find out. You know. Alright, so this I think is going to be a long time before we'll actually see whether or not, how far, whether Russia's here or here. But in the meantime, there are many areas that are stalled or slowly creeping like molasses, but not going forward for whatever reason. Gosh, the map. Gotta be careful where you press on the map. Now, this here is starting to, as you can see, expand through here, little here. They are closer to Mishmarka than the map indicates, and they're up to here on other maps. Here is also partially filled in as well, and the Russians are further up into here and here as than indicated. The Russians are sending probing attacks into here. Nothing seems to be going on here. There was about a week ago. Same here, about a week ago. There was some push here that didn't go anywhere. There's probing attacks here. These are all little street battles. Nothing major. This battle is going on here for what's left of the town. Ain't much, about a quarter left. This battle is going actually on here. This town is pretty much destroyed. This town is Ukraine keeps coming across the fields to attack the Russians. The Russians seem to be more interested in drawing the Ukrainians into established firing zones than advancing. That's their prerogative. No amount of goading will get them to move out. from under their anti-drone umbrella. And same here. They're not in a hurry to push north or into Krasnokovia, which again leads to my theory that they want to slice through here to start setting up a border. That this is all leverage now to see exactly where the new borders are going to be. Whether or not they're pushing into this town, I don't know. I think they want to wrap this operation up here, and again, this could be their new cauldron for now, just like they were using Pavosk. This seems to be just a slow grind into this area. Same here. It just seems to be the Ukrainians are now decided to focus on holding the bridges, even though the Russians can actually send troops around. But for now, they're pretending that they're too busy down here, and these two markers should be here and hit respectively, and these two are a little bit north. They've all taken this area, and the same with this. This should be here. They've all but taken. There's still little pockets of resistance all through here. Ukrainians sneaking in across the fields at night. That's why they. What they want to do is a cascade. Grinding down the Ukrainians here, and as you see, they're opening up on the artillery on their field positions, and opening up again, and they are going to do a two-pronged attack on either side, but for now, that's at a later stage. But for now, it seems the build-up is to just start back with the steady artillery attacks. Same here. You can see they've advanced on Airport 1, Airstrip 1. Again, this town that is actually an airbase, or was to be an airbase, was to be a military base, was to be a forward, landing strip for supplies and materials for the Ukrainian offensive to strike deep into. Whoa, that scrolled down really fast. Yeah, where is it? The Mulopol? Yeah, down to cut this in half. Right, that was the Ukrainian strategy. So tell me, Mr. Zelensky, is this victory in the room with us right now? Can you describe it to me, please, in the details? So, yeah. While Ukraine is claiming some territory, Russia is lighting it up. Do you feel safe? Lighting it up? Yeah, so these poor young men, advancing here little by little. That again, no significant towns have been taken. Again, they're invisible. Yeah, there are actually invisible things on this map that trigger ads if you click on them. I don't know why they're invisible or what they do, but they come up with... there are actually businesses in Ukraine for some reason. You can tell it's a Ukrainian map, right? But actually you can zoom in sometimes and you'll find a business map. This probably used to be a business map. It was probably a business map or a business guide or something that someone's repurposed. And it's still got some of the old markers on it. Like you click on a town and you actually on some towns you used to be able to click and get their actual details. They're really cleaning up this map. Right? There's a lot of invisible data that used to be on this map. So that's why it was slowing down all the time. Okay. Now, I think it's the way this map is drawn, but the Russians are on this side of the river. Right? They were coming down. But for now, they're pushing up here, right? Again, there's invisible things stopping the scrolling of the map, right? Little marker boxes, whatever, there's just nothing in them. But they're not, you can't scroll. Well, it's gone. Like, yeah. road markers, businesses that are at these locations. Because you scroll in, you got markers. You actually see them sometimes. Yeah. Now, why do Russians abandon their positions here? It's preservation of manpower, right? Ukrainians could attack from 3 positions, and instead of fighting 3 armies, they retreated and turned them all into one big artillery strike. Now, you're not just going to be able to reoccupy your trenches then, are you? So, yeah, that's why. And Russia's got a new killing box for now. So Ukrainians just went, oopsies, I walked into the trap. Now what do I do? Europe send me 28,000 more men. So, 28,000 more men for the meat grinder. That's short of that. By the way, they're supposed to have 50,000, not 28,000. So, very, very short on manpower. And Russia's grinding them down. Leg bone there. And they've got a few little advances here and there, as you can tell. They are getting closer to the Zikarin painter speaking the Bolshi instead of the Yuki. And, or the Ruski instead of the Yuki version of Slavic. Say all from the same root, Rus. Russian is a mixture of Slavic and Rus. And Ukrainian is a mix of Rus and Slavic, just more Slavic, and different enunciations for some things. But basically they can understand each other. Alright, but again, no major towns have fallen. But a couple of small places have. Total. Now, as of this month, it's gone from 80 to 81. That's not, not a big deal, right? It's a few short, but their goal wasn't based on the number of towns, and we're here now, different rumblings, and we'll get to those. But first, the new update to the Russian drone. Now, I've heard it pronounced Orion, not Orion. Orion. And so when you remember, they do not pronounce things the same as we do. Okay? Either Russian or Ukrainian. Now, this is a new update which America figured out long ago. Yes, the armed drone. However, the Orion... Here we go. Carries... you've heard of a dual warhead RPG. There she is. It's a nice little jewel. It may look familiar. You may even say a Global Hawk knockoff. Yeah, this is pretty much based on an early Global Hawk. And can you say Afghanistan? Afghanistan. Can we say Biden left equipment behind? Can we say that this is a knockoff of some equipment Biden left behind? There you go. They have any dual warhead anti-tank missile, so it's a rocket, but its warhead is the same as a dual warhead RPG inside. Basically, it's got the first explosion and then the slug behind it, which is actually not slug, the whole missile, right? So the warhead explodes, setting off the reactive armor, and it slams into. That's why you see double explosions a lot in videos. But lately, they have not been publishing videos. They've said they've been publishing videos, but my country, to protect me from myself, has decided that those videos are unavailable in Australia. So I can't bring them to you without using a VPN, and I do not have a VPN that will get around the restrictions because the VPN companies are all cooperating with my government because they're so oh yeah, God. What's the point of a VPN if they're going to cooperate with the government you're trying to get around? Yeah, see, dual warhead. Anyway, let's see what they could do to a building. A couple of them are operating at a time. And no, they don't normally wear ski masks when operating drones. It's just when the media is around, because they are volunteers from Donetsk and Lugansk. A lot of these men are volunteers from the very, let's say, Yak-130 trainer from Ukraine getting, an old one. So the Yak-130 trainer getting the treatment. If I could slow it down, I would. Just show you a few more. Boom. There you go. Just show it. Come on. Boom. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, she's got the wingspan. She's got the multiple armaments. She's got the dual warhead anti-tank missiles as standard. It's a Hellfire knockoff. Yeah, this is good. So 20 kilogram. Yeah. Oh, the KH-50, that's the anti-ship. And the Bandol, that's for bigger, really big targets. Like, yeah. That's the whole, yeah. Cruise missile to take out large oil. Yeah. And yet, these are strikes going on every day. And they may lose some. They lose some every day. But they're carrying out strikes, multiple strikes. So instead of lots of drones along the front. And this is how they're made. They are made, which is pretty much like a 3D printed device, except more advanced. We're getting close to replicated technology, where they could replicate part after part, fashioned out of metal, precision. So, one of the reasons why Europe is very pissed at Russia is Russia could do it cheaper than they can. Now, it may not always be as high speed or have the fancy spinning logos at the startup and play a little ta-da, which is actually Italian presentation music, I believe it's called. Little notes they'd play in the theatres. Is actually, I forget which play it's from, actually. So the clown comes out and rips off his mask, and the violins go, yeah. You'll know it when you hear it and see it. You'll never unsee it. A lot of you Microsoft, whoops, I just accidentally hit my microphone cable. Hope the screen jitter. So, yeah. But, again, the whole point of ending, is that there's a lot of things that aren't new under the sun that Russia is doing, but it's new to them. And it's them doing it without outside help, which is what pisses Europe off the most, because they want to carve up the Russian economy. They can't. And what happens after this war, these Russian entrepreneurs aren't going to close business. No, they're going to expand. And this is the panic. This is the panic that is really striking the halls of power, because they rely on all the business fees, all the kickbacks, all the corruption, all the smuggling cross borders. All the fattening you up so they can carve you up. They can't do that if they don't have control. Again, as I said, the Russians carry out a long-range drone and missile strike on a port in transport, a hub in Zaporozhye. They blew up some trucks and containers, And this was a massive, overwhelming attack. Ukrainian air defense couldn't stop the drone and glide bombs. But yeah. Now, quiet part out loud. Zelensky admits that the Duba pipeline was tied to the 90 billion from the that they'll reopen it when they get their 90 billion. Slovakia's done a deal. Okay, we'll give you X. We'll give you something, but once the foil's over, we'll back you on the new sanctions. So Europe is going to get its. They're preparing to pass the 90 billion bill. Zelensky is preparing to allow EU inspectors on the Duba pipeline so they could take delivery of, he's going to ask for a specific amount of parts and materials as part of this 90 billion. These parts and materials are actually on top of the 90 billion, but they will be accompanied by a couple of people to specifically work on the pipeline to free up Ukrainian labor to and have the pipeline inspected. So whatever sabotage or damage or evidence is going to be gone by the time the Europeans get there. And it's going to look like the Russians did it because Ukraine's had all this time to prepare, right? Europe's going to turn a blind eye and nod along quietly and not report anything different. And they're going to find broken pipe valves that have been welded shut, and fire foam and all these other things that haven't conveniently broken down yet. So then they're going to replace all these junction valves, and they're going to put in automated equipment and test monitoring. And Ukraine has destroyed all evidence of them stealing gas and oil. And then later, as the pipeline's flowing, 99.9% is going to get to Slovakia, but 99% is going to get to Slovakia, and Ukraine's going to take a few percent off the top, because I don't think exactly. It's going to be more like 95. You know it. They're going to slowly up the amount they steal. Right? See these pressure valves. These are meant to blow when there's a fire, explosion, or pressure, whatever goes above a certain point. They're like a pressure cooker. They just go, and you'll see these flame off. Well, what oil thieves do is they carefully weld a seal around it, then they drill into the pipe and siphon off siphon off a second junction on here, like they drill through the brake or whatever. So eventually, of course, the weakened structure will explode. They know this. Right? Oil thieves, right? It's usually hidden, but it's usually something that's going to be replaced often, like a pressure valve or a safety valve, because eventually the pressure or a pressure regulator, you're going to have something hit it, like a truck or something in real life. But in a war, you got more options. Oh, it's accidentally shelled by the enemy, even though it's way out of range and it's the enemy's own pipeline. Why would they shell it? Yeah. So, just say Russia knows. Only Russia knows how and when they intend is the key part, to end the Ukraine conflict. They've had this conversation with President Trump. They've now had the conversation with their Security Council and Foreign Minister, and they've briefed now the the Council of Municipalities. These are the regional mayors and governors outside of Moscow. These are territory, basically, because former Ukrainians in the Donbass are now part of this territorial governorship, and parts of the Donbass are still occupied. And of course, they asked the question in their forum, right? What are the goals? So that they can report to their people what's happening. And many want Ukrainian neutrality, particularly towards the new regions. They want no revenge. They want no claims. They want Ukraine to renounce all claims to the territory. They want Russia to accept these former Ukrainians as Russians that voted to join Russia, and repeatedly end any effort to have them marked off as separate territories. While negotiations will ultimately fail, there are issues where Russia's refused to withdraw from, Ukraine's refused to withdraw from. How it's going to happen, no one's for sure, but there's general speculation is Trump between you and side with the Putin and say, well, the cost is too high, right? We've done the maths. America's already said this. We've done the maths. The cost in manpower and lives is too high, right? Unless Russia crosses the red line, and Russia says they have no intention of crossing the red line. That discussion's exactly what America's red lines are. They lay out their own red lines to pass on to the EU. The EU has tested this, and Lavrov has said, fuck around and find out. Now, we've already had a couple of acts of sabotage against Britain and Germany. France is next, and I do suggest that France, complaining that they've lost some assets in Iran and some ships. My suggestion is the Russians accidentally pointed out that a certain ship carrying from Iran wasn't headed, it was maybe headed to China, but was trading through a French trading company. And so Macron has fucked around and found out, and so now he's angry and lashing out at Trump. I think it was the Russians who tipped off the Americans that the French were sanction busting. But my guess is the Americans probably knew and had been using that as their own backdoor for a while. And now, knowing that the Russians know means that any intelligence pipeline that shipping or sanction busting, represented, particularly through that ship. But that ship was probably not the only spy ship. But yeah, that ship is no longer operational. I guarantee you there's no electronics left on that ship, that everything's gone. That crew that Iran's asking for, they're going to disappear. They're not going to hand that crew back over. Everybody knows if it's even if it's not a spy ship, Iran can't take that chance. Macron should have kept his mouth shut. He put a death sentence on that crew. He's a fucking idiot. This is the problem with liberals. They always think they're clever. They always think they're going to one up. They got to learn to keep their mouth shut. Stop talking about things you don't know anything about. Just say, oh, that ship? No knowledge of that ship. Shouldn't have bloody folks spoken up and say, you cost me money. No, take it like a man, Macron. Oh, that's right. You're the wife. You're acting like it. Yeah, security zone being formed on the border. This is endgame stuff, people. This is like 53 all over again. Putin has vowed to continue the special military operation until all goals were achieved. Now, of course, there is some dialogue. There's some optional stuff there. We don't know where their hard R's are and their soft R's are and their little limits, hard limits, and their safety words. Those are all behind closed doors, right? They give us a 28-point plan, but in reality, we all know that about half of that is negotiable to some extent, or just holding out for a little bit more cash, and we suddenly forget about it. You can keep that town now. I just wanted you to see that he's calm, serious, not frothing at the mouth, not screaming at the heavens, and that he's been treated as in charge and large by 50% of the world. 50% of the world is on Russia's side, 50% of the world is on America's side. Sorry. let's say that again. 50% of the world is firmly on Russia's side. 30% of the world is firmly on America's side. 20% of the world is crossing their arms and going, "Oh, Trump." Yeah, Macron should have kept his mouth shut. That Iranian taker would have been hauled away, disappeared, all the electronics, and just scrubbed whatever cargo it had. Poor old, whatever cargo they had. If France intended shenanigans, well, you should have let the Americans know. Then you shouldn't have taken it by ship and tested their embargo. Again, it's supposed to be a Chinese front company that's registered overseas. Now, Macron opening his mouth, you just basically put your foot in it. Just stupidity. Could have left it ambiguous and no one would have cared. They would have assumed, like all the others, that it was in Switzerland. Well, a lot of French companies are registered in Switzerland too. It ain't the first and it ain't the last time that French companies have worked as fronts for China or Iran. Like the sanction busters, France and sanction busting goes all the way back to Mitterrand and his cousin with logging and de Gaulle and the animal trade. The prostitute scandal. After the war, all the French prostitutes in Algeria. They refused to return to Europe. All the comfort girls were abandoned, basically, by, kidnapped from their homes by the Nazis and then abandoned by France after all because they're seen as Nazi collaborators. They're probably poor old. They took a lot of, I forget where I think they eventually ended up in Italy, I think. Yeah. Took a lot of persuading to get America finally. But this is their principles. Socialists, man. They got no principles. They're just gutless. All right, that's the state of the war. And it is it's very, very transparent. Right, but out of the recruitment this month, trainees, only 28,000 trainees are coming out of Europe this month into Ukraine. That's well short of the 50,000 and way short of the 2 million. Most of them, are refusing. A lot of the people with Ukrainian flags in their bio, they refused. Ukraine has invited them, a lot of people, to join their army and say, hey, no, it's not our war. Wait a minute, you got our flag in your bio. I send you drone money. Yeah. So Ukraine is shaking people down. Suckers. And, it's this in a slow boil. But again, I said, if they can hold for another 6 months, which I think they can, though Putin was probably, start declaring victory in some places and start calling for border walls and stuff like that. And Ukraine will have to eat humble pie and lose, well, I think, 25% of Ukraine. Instead of the 17.5 they could have had last year, right? So Putin's come out on top. Whether you like it or not, Russia hasn't lost 1.2 million. Okay, this is the problem. Ukraine is saying we eliminated. No, you haven't. They claimed everyone they shot is dead. That's not true. You can see by the Red Cross statistics. Russia provides 1,000 dead Ukrainians. How many dead Russians does Ukraine have? 28. You might say, oh, but Russia cleans up its own. Well, if Russia has attacked towns and hasn't advanced or bogged down, right, the majority of wounded are going to be left on the battlefield for Ukraine to pick up. And they're not. There aren't that many wounded. There ain't many dead. Russia's not taking big risks or bold sweeps, right? The moment they start taking casualties, they pull back because of preservation of manpower. They are treating their own lives and allowed to treat their own lives as precious. That is buying Putin a lot of love and a lot of loyalty. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Please support the channel. You can support me on Ko-Fi, Patreon, buy my books, buy my merch. I appreciate each and every one of you. See you in the next video, and bye for now.